There's something about comedy characters that makes us laugh at their failures. Most of them are either complete idiots who deserve what's coming to them, or they're selfish jerks who finally get a taste of karma. Then you have the raunchy comedies where everyone's just trying to get laid or get rich. But there's a specific type of character that hits different. The ones who genuinely try their absolute hardest to make things work. The ones who have nothing but good intentions and still manage to turn everything into a complete disaster. A character that just wants to give his family the perfect experience. A character that refuses to admit defeat no matter how many things explode in his face. A character that represents every father who's ever tried too hard to be the fun parent. A character that we don't just laugh at, we see ourselves in. This is the story of Clark Griswold and the burden of being the perfect father. Let's start from the beginning. In the 1983 movie National Lampoon's Vacation, we meet Clark Griswold, a food additive designer living in Chicago with his wife Ellen and their two kids, Rusty and Audrey. The movie opens with Clark announcing his grand plan to take the whole family on a cross-country road trip to Wally World, a fictional amusement park in California. You can immediately see the excitement in Clark's eyes. This isn't just a vacation to him. This is his chance to create the perfect family memory. He's got the route planned out, the activities mapped, everything scheduled down to the minute. The guy even makes a speech about it. But here's where things start going wrong immediately. Clark ordered a brand new sports wagon for the trip, something sleek and cool. Instead, the car dealer tricks him into taking this ugly metallic pea green station wagon. It's called the Wagon Queen Family Truckster, and it looks absolutely ridiculous. Most people would refuse it and demand the car they ordered, but not Clark. He convinces himself and his family that this hideous car is actually going to make the trip even more fun. This is the first glimpse into Clark's mindset. He refuses to let reality ruin his perfect vision. The family hits the road, and right away, everything that can go wrong does go wrong. They get lost multiple times because Clark refuses to ask for directions. There's this whole thing where he insists he knows where he's going, even when they end up in the worst neighborhoods in East St. Louis. The family is terrified, and Clark is still trying to maintain this upbeat attitude like everything is fine. Then we get to the part where Clark decides they should visit his Aunt Edna and Cousin Catherine in Kansas. Nobody wants to do this. Ellen doesn't want to. The kids definitely don't want to. But Clark insists, because in his mind, this is what families do on road trips. They visit relatives. Aunt Edna is this mean old woman who complains about everything, and her dog is this disgusting little creature. Clark, being Clark, offers to drop them off at Phoenix because, hey, it's kind of on the way to California, right? Wrong. It's completely out of the way, but Clark doesn't care. He's committed to helping family. Here's where the movie gets dark for a second. While they're driving through the desert, Aunt Edna dies in her sleep in the back seat. Nobody notices for a while. When they finally realize she's dead, Clark makes the decision to just keep driving. He ties her to the roof of the car in a lawn chair and leaves her on her son's doorstep in Phoenix. I'm not kidding. This actually happens. Most people would see this as the sign that maybe the trip should end, that maybe they should just go home. But Clark is determined to get to Wally World. Nothing is going to stop this man from achieving his perfect family vacation, not even death. Oh, and the dog gets dragged behind the car on a leash and dies too. Yeah, this movie goes there. The 80 seconds were a different time. The car breaks down in the middle of the desert. They're stranded with no help in sight. A local mechanic completely rips them off, charging them a fortune to fix the car. Clark pays it because what choice does he have? The family is miserable, exhausted, sunburned, and ready to murder each other. Ellen is trying to be supportive, but even she's reaching her limit. The kids are fighting constantly. Audrey and Rusty can't stand being in the same car anymore. But Clark keeps pushing forward with this manic energy. He starts losing it a bit. You can see it in his eyes. He's not going to let this trip be a failure. He can't. Because if this trip fails, what does that say about him as a father? They finally make it to Wally World after all that suffering. Clark is so excited he can barely contain himself. They pull into the parking lot and the place looks amazing. This is it. This is the moment Clark has been dreaming about. His family is going to have the time of their lives. They walk up to the entrance and there's a moose mascot standing there. The moose informs them that the park is closed for repairs. Clark just stands there, completely frozen. You can see his brain trying to process this information. After everything they've been through, the park is closed. The security guard, played by John Candy, comes over and very politely tells them, "Sorry folks, park's closed. The moose out front should have told you." This is where Clark completely snaps. He pulls out a BB gun he bought earlier in the trip and takes the security guard hostage. He forces the guy to turn on all the rides so his family can enjoy the park. The police show up, it becomes this whole standoff situation. Eventually it gets resolved because the park's owner shows up and decides to let them stay. He appreciates Clark's dedication to family fun time. The movie ends with the Griswolds finally getting their perfect day at Wally World, even though they had to commit several crimes to make it happen. What this first movie establishes is the core of Clark's character. He's a man who will literally break the law and risk jail time to give his family a good time. That's not normal behavior. That's obsession. Leave a comment below. What's your favorite Chevy Chase moment in these movies? Also, please leave a like and subscribe while you're down there. 2 years later, in 1985, we get European Vacation. Clark wins a trip to Europe on a game show called Pig in a Poke. He's absolutely thrilled because now he gets to expose his family to culture and sophistication. In Clark's mind, this is going to be even better than Wally World because they're going to see real history and art. The family is less enthusiastic. They've been through one Griswold vacation already. They know how this is going to go. But Clark is unstoppable in his optimism. They land in London, and immediately Clark causes chaos by driving on the wrong side of the road. He's terrified, but trying to act like he's got everything under control. The family is screaming as he nearly kills pedestrians and causes multiple accidents. Classic Clark behavior. He takes them to see Big Ben, Buckingham Palace, all the tourist spots. But of course, nothing goes smoothly. They accidentally knock over a bunch of those guards with the big fuzzy hats. Clark gets into an argument with a police officer. They go to a fancy restaurant, and Clark tries to act sophisticated, but just embarrasses everyone. There's this subplot where Ellen starts getting attention from other men, and Clark gets super jealous. He's so focused on being the fun dad that he forgot his wife might want some romance too. The family heads to France, and Clark is determined to show them the artistic beauty of Paris. Instead, they get lost immediately, can't communicate with anyone because none of them speak French, and end up in sketchy situations. Clark accidentally leaves Ellen behind at a rest stop and doesn't realize it for hours. When he finally goes back to get her, she's understandably furious. But here's the thing about Ellen that becomes really clear in this movie. She loves Clark despite all his disasters. She could have divorced him after the first vacation. She could have refused to go to Europe. But she goes along with it because she understands something about her husband. He's trying. He's really genuinely trying to be a good father and husband. His methods are insane and his planning is terrible, but his heart is in the right place. The movie continues with them going to Germany, where Clark gets drunk at a beer festival and makes a fool of himself. Then they go to Rome, where they meet some distant Italian relatives who are way more cool and relaxed than the Griswolds. Clark tries to compete with them and fails miserably. The trip ends with the family barely speaking to each other on the plane ride home. But even in the final scene, you can see Clark is already thinking about the next vacation. He hasn't learned anything. He's gonna do this again. Now we get to what I think is the best movie in the franchise, 1989's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. This is the one everyone watches every year during the holidays. This movie really digs into what makes Clark tick. It's not about a road trip this time. It's about Clark trying to create the perfect family Christmas at home. The movie starts with Clark and Ellen driving to the countryside to pick out the perfect Christmas tree. Of course, they get lost and almost die because Clark refuses to admit he doesn't know where he's going. They eventually find a tree, and Clark cuts it down, except it's way too big for their house. Does he cut a smaller tree? Absolutely not. He's dragging that massive tree home, no matter what. Clark has this elaborate vision of Christmas. He wants the entire family to be there. He wants the house decorated perfectly. He wants a huge feast. And most importantly, he wants to install the most incredible Christmas light display the neighborhood has ever seen. He spends days setting up 25,000 individual lights on his house. His yuppie neighbors make fun of him for how tacky it looks, but Clark doesn't care. This is going to be the moment his family remembers forever. When he finally plugs in all the lights, they don't work. He's checked every bulb, every connection, everything. He's losing his mind trying to figure out what's wrong. His wife reminds him that they're not turned on at the power source. When they finally flip the switch, the entire power grid in the neighborhood gets overloaded. It's so bright you can see it from space. Clark stands there grinning like an idiot, so proud of himself. The neighbors hate him, the family is embarrassed. But Clark is happy because in his mind, he nailed it. Then, Cousin Eddie shows up, unannounced, with his whole family in an RV. Eddie is basically what Clark would be if he gave up on life. He's broke, he's crude, he's got no filter, and he's completely shameless about mooching off relatives. Most people would politely tell Eddie to leave, or at least get a hotel. Not Clark. He insists they stay because it's Christmas and family should be together. Eddie proceeds to dump his RV's sewage tank into the storm drain, kidnaps Clark's boss, and generally makes everything worse. But through all of this, there's something revealed that's really important. Clark is waiting on his Christmas bonus from work. He's already spent it. He used it as a down payment on a pool for the backyard. When his boss shows up to the Christmas party and gives everyone a subscription to the Jelly of the Month Club instead of money, Clark has a complete breakdown. This is the first time we see that Clark's obsession with perfect family experiences isn't just about ego. It's about financial anxiety too. He works a boring job doing food additive research. He's not rich. Every vacation, every Christmas display, every attempt to be the fun dad is probably stretching their budget to the limit. The pool was supposed to be his way of making sure the family had fun at home, too. When that gets taken away, Clark loses it completely. He goes on this rant about his boss being cheap and how he's going to get revenge. Cousin Eddie, being the insane person he is, actually kidnaps Clark's boss and brings him to the house. The movie ends with a SWAT team showing up, the boss agreeing to give Clark his bonus, and everyone having a Merry Christmas after all. But the important part is that Ellen stands by Clark through all of it. She's the one who calms him down. She's the one who believes in him, even when he's at his worst. Fast forward to 1997 and Vegas Vacation. This movie is honestly the weakest of the original four, but it still has some important Clark moments. The family goes to Las Vegas, and Clark is excited because he thinks this is going to be a sophisticated adult vacation where they can all have fun in different ways. The kids can do kid stuff, Ellen can see shows, and Clark can do some light gambling. Except Clark immediately gets addicted to gambling. He starts losing money on every game. He keeps thinking the next game is going to be the one where he wins big and becomes the hero who pays for the whole trip. Wayne Newton has this weird subplot where he keeps flirting with Ellen and taking her to fancy dinners. Clark is jealous, but he's too distracted by his gambling problem to really deal with it. Meanwhile, Rusty is killing it at the casinos. His son is winning thousands of dollars and becoming this high roller while Clark loses everything. There's this role reversal happening where the son is more successful than the dad, and you can see it's destroying Clark's ego. He's supposed to be the provider. He's supposed to be the one who makes sure everyone has money and fun. Instead, his teenage son is getting comped rooms and treated like a VIP, while Clark gets banned from casinos for being a terrible gambler. Clark hits rock bottom when he loses the car in a bet. The whole family is stranded, and it's completely his fault. For the first time in these movies, Clark has to admit that he messed up, that his decision-making was terrible and he let his family down. The resolution comes when Clark somehow wins big at Keno and gets all the money back. He's the hero again. The family forgives him because that's what the Griswolds do. They forgive each other and move on to the next disaster. But Vegas Vacation shows us something important. Clark's need to be the perfect father isn't just about creating memories. It's about validation. He needs to prove to himself and his family that he's successful, that he's worthy of being their dad. Every time he fails, it cuts deep. And every time he somehow pulls off a win at the end, it reinforces his belief that trying harder is always the answer. So that brings us to the question, what exactly is Clark Griswold's deal? What drives a man to repeatedly put his family through absolute hell while genuinely believing he's giving them the best experiences of their lives? The answer is actually pretty sad when you think about it. Clark represents a very specific generation of American fathers. The post-war baby boomer generation that was raised on this idea that success meant having a happy nuclear family. His own childhood was probably filled with boring, safe, predictable family moments. Maybe his dad wasn't around much. Maybe his parents fought about money constantly. Whatever the reason, Clark decided that when he had a family, things would be different. He was going to be fun dad. He was going to create these amazing memories that his kids would cherish forever. The problem is that Clark measures his success as a father entirely by external validation. He needs his family to be visibly happy and excited. He needs the neighbors to be impressed by his Christmas lights. He needs other people to see that the Griswolds are having the time of their lives. When reality doesn't match his vision, he can't handle it. He doubles down instead of adapting. This is most obvious in Christmas Vacation when he's setting up the lights. His wife gently suggests maybe they don't need 25,000 lights. Maybe something simpler would be nice. Clark completely ignores her because simple doesn't create the perfect moment he's imagining. He's chasing this impossible standard that exists only in his head. What's interesting is Ellen's role in all of this. She's the realistic one. She knows these vacations are going to be disasters. She knows Clark is going to overdo everything. But she supports him anyway because she understands that this is how he shows love. Clark doesn't know how to just exist with his family. He doesn't know how to have a quiet Saturday at home where everyone just hangs out. He needs projects. He needs plans. He needs to be doing something that proves he's a good dad. Ellen loves him despite this, or maybe because of it. She sees a man who cares so much about his family that he'll make a complete fool of himself to try to make them happy. That's actually kind of beautiful in a weird way. The kids' reactions to Clark evolve throughout the movies too. In the first vacation, Rusty and Audrey are constantly embarrassed by their dad. They complain about everything and clearly wish they were anywhere else. By Christmas Vacation, they're teenagers who are still embarrassed, but you can see they also appreciate what he's trying to do. They defend him to other people. They participate in his crazy schemes. They've learned that this is just who their dad is, and fighting it is pointless. By Vegas Vacation, Rusty is almost trying to outdo his dad, to show him up. It's like he learned Clark's competitive nature and turned it against him. But even then, when Clark is at his lowest, Rusty doesn't abandon him. The family sticks together because that's what Clark taught them to do. Cousin Eddie is really important to understanding Clark too. Eddie is the mirror version of Clark. He's what happens when you stop trying. Eddie has given up on conventional success. He doesn't have a job, he lives in an RV, he mooches off relatives without shame. But here's the thing, Eddie seems pretty happy. He's not stressed, he's not obsessed with creating perfect moments. He just exists and accepts whatever comes his way. Clark looks at Eddie with this mixture of pity and horror because Eddie represents his worst fear. If Clark stopped trying to be the perfect father, would he end up like Eddie? Is the constant stress and failure worth it? Or should he just relax and accept mediocrity? There's a philosophy concept called the myth of Sisyphus. It's about this guy in Greek mythology who gets punished by the gods and has to push a boulder up a hill for eternity. Every time he gets close to the top, the boulder rolls back down and he has to start over. The philosopher Albert Camus used this as a metaphor for the human condition. We're all pushing our own boulders up hills, doing repetitive, meaningless tasks, and the universe doesn't care. But Camus argues that we have to imagine Sisyphus happy, that finding meaning in the struggle itself is what makes life worth living. Clark Griswold is Sisyphus. Every vacation is the boulder. He knows it's going to roll back down. He knows Wally World might be closed, that Eddie will show up, that he'll get lost and cause disasters. But he keeps pushing that boulder because the alternative is giving up. And Clark will never give up. The tragedy of Clark Griswold isn't that his vacations fail, it's that he's measuring success by the wrong standards. He thinks success is the perfect family photo, the working Christmas lights, the grateful kids who thank him for the amazing trip. But the actual success is already there. His wife loves him. His kids keep going on these trips with him, even as adults. The family stays together through everything. They don't need Wally World to be open. They don't need 25,000 Christmas lights. They just need Clark to be there, trying his best, making them laugh with his failures. That's the real perfect family moment, and Clark is too busy chasing the imaginary perfect moment to realize it. In modern times, Clark's character hits even harder. We live in the age of social media where everyone is performing their perfect family life for strangers online. Every vacation has to have the perfect Instagram photos. Every holiday has to look like a magazine spread. Parents are competing with each other to prove who's doing it better. Who has the most elaborate gender reveal, the biggest birthday party, the most educational summer activities? Clark Griswold was doing this before Instagram existed. He was the original performative parent. And just like modern parents, he's making himself and his family miserable in the pursuit of an image that doesn't actually matter. What Clark never seems to learn, and maybe this is the point, is that his family doesn't need him to be perfect. They need him to be present. Ellen doesn't care about European vacations. She'd probably be happy with a quiet dinner at home. Rusty and Audrey don't need Wally World. They need a dad who listens to them and supports them. But Clark can't hear that message because he's too deep in his own head, too committed to his vision of what fatherhood should look like. The saddest part is that Clark's job is designing food additives. He makes food taste better artificially. His whole career is about enhancing reality, making things seem better than they are. He's doing the same thing with his family life. He's trying to add artificial enhancement to what's already good enough on its own. But here's why we love Clark despite all of this. He never gives up. In a world full of absent fathers, deadbeat dads, and men who check out of family life, Clark shows up every single time. He might show up with terrible plans and cause disasters, but he shows up. He fights for his family even when fighting makes things worse. There's something admirable about that level of commitment, even when it's misguided. Every dad who's ever tried to put together a complicated toy on Christmas Eve, or planned a family trip that went wrong, or attempted to impress their kids and failed, sees themselves in Clark Griswold. We're all just trying to push our boulders up the hill and hoping this time it'll work out. Don't lie to yourself. When you watch Christmas Vacation every December, you're not just laughing at Clark struggling with the Christmas lights. You're seeing your own dad, or yourself as a dad, or the dad you're afraid of becoming. Clark Griswold's story is about the impossible standard that fathers set for themselves. Society expects dads to be perfect providers, entertainers, protectors, and role models all at once. You're supposed to work hard and make money, but also be present for every game and recital. You're supposed to be fun, but also strict. You're supposed to create magical memories, but also teach responsibility. It's an impossible job, and Clark shows us what happens when you try to do it all perfectly. You end up tied to a sled going 90 miles an hour down a hill, completely out of control, screaming the whole way down. Clark Griswold ultimately shows us that being a good father isn't about the perfect vacation or the working Christmas lights. It's about the attempt. It's about showing your family that you care enough to make a fool of yourself trying. His greatest success isn't any vacation going according to plan. His greatest success is that 30 years later, people still watch these movies and see themselves in this ridiculous man in a goofy sweater. We see the burden he carries, the weight of trying to be everything to everyone. And we understand it because we carry the same burden. Clark taught us that it's okay to fail as long as you fail while trying. that the perfect family moment isn't perfect at all. It's messy and chaotic and full of disasters, but it's real. And in the end, that's what matters. Do you think Clark ever achieved the perfect family moment, or was chasing it the whole point? Leave a comment down below on what you think. Maybe the perfect moment was all the disasters along the way. Please leave a like while you're down there, and check out my other character analysis videos. To those of you who aren't subscribed, please subscribe for more content like this, where we break down what makes these characters tick. Thanks for watching.